How can you just because we claim the singing part of it instead of
This is for speakers, you said, and you have the honor roll.
He's in the family tree there, offshoot on the branch. We all came from South
Alabama. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you could please take your seats, we'll get started at this time. I want to thank each and every one of you for coming out here today as we commemorate and honor our Dutch flyers and heroes, and as we honor Mr. Pieter Cramerus shortly. I would ask that you please stand for the presentation of our country's flags and remain standing for the playing of both national anthems. I'd like to ask Chaplain Kuda to please give us the invocation.
Will you join me in prayer? Almighty Father, today we come together in your presence to commemorate and memorialize those who offered their lives in times past for peace and the right to live in freedom. It is with great respect and humility that we recognize that you are the author and sustainer of life, and without your staying power, peace, and freedom would be overwhelmed by the evil which seeks to rule over this world. We are but instruments in your hand, and today we come to honor Pieter Cramerus for being one of those who willingly offered his life for the well-being of his fellow man. We ask your blessings on this occasion, and may it bring honor and glory to you. In Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Please be seated. Again, thank you and welcome, and thank you for coming out here today. I'd like to welcome you to Mississippi. From those of you who aren't from here, we're quite proud and honored to have you in our state today. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Tommy Lofton, the new director of the Mississippi Armed Forces Museum. And we were very fortunate to have some of you at our museum yesterday. And we hope that if you haven't seen it, that you'll get a chance to come down to Hattiesburg to Camp Shelby to see us soon. I think there's a few of you possibly coming later today or early next week. I would like to take a minute to also personally thank the family of Pieter Cramerus for being here today, and thank you for being willing to use this day and this commemoration to also celebrate and honor your father. I think today is quite the fitting day to have this ceremony, because here in the United States we recognize today as Armed Forces Day, and so I think it's what better day and way for us to have a celebration to honor these heroes that are here before us and our allies as Americans. At this time, I would like to pay a special thank you. We'll first introduce a few important people for the American side that we have here today. Our Adjutant General, Major General Durr Boyles, is here with us today. We also have with us Major General Kennedy with us, and Brigadier General Neighbors with us as well, seated over here. Thank you, gentlemen, for all being here today. I also want to thank 66th Troop Command for their support in this event, the 114th MP Company, the 41st Army Band for providing our bugler today, the 172nd Airlift Wing as well for preparing the grounds and doing everything that they could to help support this event. At this time, I would like to introduce you again to our Adjutant General, Major Durr Boyles. He was appointed to his position in 2006 by Governor Phil Bryant on September the 1st. And he serves, again, as our Adjutant General for the state of Mississippi in command of our Mississippi Army and Air National Guard. He's responsible for providing the state of Mississippi and the United States of America with a ready force of some 12,000 citizen soldiers and airmen equipped to respond to any natural or man-made contingency. He is quite familiar in working with NATO, has served quite a bit overseas, and was very, very instrumental in our Hurricane Katrina recovery. If you would, sir, I'd like to ask you to come up and please say a few words.
Thank you, Tommy. I really had some prepared remarks, but I'm not sure. I do a very poor job of following the written script. But I want to start by thanking all of you for being here to celebrate this important day. Thank you, our guests, for being here from the Netherlands and representing what a great partnership we've had through our time together. And to the airmen from both Jackson and from Fort Rucker, what a great looking formation over here to see two countries standing side by side as we've done for years and years and years. What a great symbol of our partnership. I just want to say just a few things about this plot of land. And I mentioned this to the representative from the embassy earlier, that in 1942, when the Dutch airmen arrived, this was a very vibrant community. This was a very vibrant neighborhood. You had a zoo right over here behind you. You had a big lake where everybody from the city came to swim and sunbathe and all that. You had the international airport right here. And of course, like with any city, this city has aged a little bit, and that network has moved out into other areas. But when the Fliers were here, they were in a very important part of Jackson, Mississippi, and they were an integral part of this community. My father is a World War II veteran. He was in high school when they first arrived in 1942, and I asked him, I was with him last night, and I asked him, those are actually our helicopters, by the way, so enjoy them. said that the trouble is that all the young men were all fighting in World War II, and so when these young men came in here from Australia, all the ladies took notice, and so it was not long before they were having dances and parties and really becoming a part of this community. There were a lot of families that came with them. There were actually 688 Fliers and family members who arrived in Jackson, Mississippi that year in 1942 to train. So it was quite a community of folks here. So thank you for being a part of our community. I just want to tell you that this continues to be a growing partnership. I'm glad to see that our Air Wing is out here to support this. And again, thank you for taking the time on a hot Saturday morning to be here. We really welcome you and hope you enjoy the ceremony this morning. Thank you very much.
All right. I'd like to introduce one of my new favorite people in this world, Miss Connie Willems. I would ask her to please come forward and help me with introductions and thank yous for our Dutch contingent today.
Goedemorgen and good morning. I'm here to introduce the guests that are Dutch or have a Dutch connection. And of course, I first would like to introduce Mrs. Helene Bakker. She's a Deputy Ambassador of the Netherlands from Washington, D.C., and she will later address you. And then Commander Eric Jan Lohman. He is the gentleman sitting there with beautifully white uniform. He's Navy. Assistant Naval Attaché and Deputy Defense Cooperation Attaché at the Royal Netherlands Embassy in Washington, D.C. Then I'd like to introduce Lieutenant Colonel Roy Pijvers. He is sitting there. He is of the Netherlands and of the Netherlands Aviation Training Attachment from Fort Rucker, Alabama. And his second person in command, Sergeant Major Dave de Beauvagier Watson. He is standing there in front of his troops, and they have brought a contingent from Fort Rucker, people that are in training, helicopter training, Dutchmen that are in helicopter training in Fort Rucker, Alabama. You have already met Mr. Tommy Lofton, but you have not met yet Melissa Kosky. Melissa? There she is. She is the one that has basically done a lot of work to make this ceremony possible. And Tommy Lofton and the museum are great supporters of this event, and they have been instrumental in reviving it, I think now at least 15, 20 years in a row. Of course, we have the family members here from Pieter Cramerus. I think Annelies is sitting there. And it is, sorry, I have them on a different page. Pieter and Marijke. And this morning was also some other family member from the Cramerus family. That obviously came here for this occasion. I also want to commemorate Mrs. Marjorie Helfrich. She is the widow of Mr. John Helfrich, and she died earlier this year in January, and is also interred here at his cemetery. And we have here Judge Bob Helfrich and Mary Lou McCoy here. Then I would like to make a special introduction of a Dutchman that basically lives in New Orleans, in the Netherlands. And as you may know, the Dutch communities have adopted graves on Margraten, which is a very large U.S. cemetery in the south of Holland. And the local population now for 3 generations have adopted a particular grave of an American. Mr. Bert van Egge is here basically by chance that he's in the United States, so he decided to attend, which I'm grateful for. We also have with us Captain Bob Nijkamp and Sergeant Major Jan Knuden. They are representative of the 22nd Squadron based in Leeuwarden, which I don't know where they are, maybe 610. Oh, there they are. Okay. And they came specially for Mr. Cramerus because it was the squadron that Mr. Cramerus was serving. Then I would like to introduce Mr. Deidre McGlinchey. She is sitting there in orange coat. She is the new honorary consul of the Netherlands, stationed in New Orleans, but covering Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. Mr. Eric Goscio is the present president of the Holland Club in New Orleans, and we have the following board members of the Holland Club here: Harry B., Max Winkler, Malcolm and Linda Burns, and a former president of the Holland Club, Mr. Casey Willems. Now it is my distinct pleasure to invite Ms. Helene Bakker, who will address you on behalf of the Embassy of the Netherlands.
Thank you very much, Connie, and also a big thank you to Tommy Lofton. I think I should like to thank you very much for putting this ceremony together with your team, Melissa, and also for preserving the collective history that is right in front of us here. That's a very incredible and valuable effort, and as we are witnessing this ceremony today, I think that shows, and it sort of pays a lot of respect to that effort, and we think it's very important that it's continued. So thank you very much for that. It is truly a great honor for me to be here today to commemorate the fallen Dutch Fliers, who have such strong ties to the Jackson community, as it was mentioned already. I would like to thank to extend a special welcome to the Adjutant General of Mississippi, Major General Bowles, to the Assistant Adjutant General, Major General Kennedy, and to the Assistant Adjutant General, Brigadier General Neighbors. It is great that you could find the time to be with us this morning on a very special occasion. And your presence here underlines for me the long-standing and steadfast alliance and friendship between the United States, the state of Mississippi, the city of Jackson, and the Netherlands. Also, of course, a very warm welcome to the relatives of Captain Pieter Cramerus, who are here with us this morning. Captain Cramerus, who worked and trained at the Royal Netherlands Military Flying School in 1943, passed away last year in December 2017 at a very high age, and he had expressed the explicit wish to add his remains to this special place so he can rest together with his comrades in arms. And Peter and Marijke, today marks a very special occasion for you where we commemorate your father's lives and also his heroic accomplishments, of which we heard last night as well, and we lay him to eternal rest. Of course, I'd also like to welcome a few of my fellow countrymen here today. A very special welcome to Captain Nijkamp, representing the Netherlands 322 Squadron, and also the Netherlands detachment from Fort Rucker. And finally, of course, a big welcome to everyone who is present here today, other family members, relatives, special guests, and everyone that makes Jackson a wonderful community. Before I talk a little bit about the fallen, please allow me to go back in history a little bit and share with you how it is that we are here today. Ladies and gentlemen, after the attack on Pearl Harbor, Japan invaded and actually rapidly conquered most of Southeast Asia, including the Dutch East Indies, which is present-day Indonesia. And by March 1942, Dutch forces had surrendered to the Japanese forces. Remnants of the Dutch troops retreated to Australia. Many people and soldiers who could not get away were interned in camps where they spent up to 3 horrific years. The air crews that did come to Australia quickly joined the Australian Air Force to form a Dutch bomber squadron, officially called the 18th Squadron. Meanwhile, the United States, in coordination with the Australian and the British governments, offered to train the Dutch airmen and prepare them for war in the Pacific. And at that time, training opportunities were scarce, So the Netherlands accepted this offer naturally with gratitude. And it was here at Jackson Army Air Base at Hawkins Field that was selected to host the Royal Netherlands Military Flying School in the United States. This flying school was active from 1942 to 1944, and it trained some 800 Dutch airmen to become pilots, observers, bombardiers and radio men, including a significant number of East Indian military personnel that were in Dutch service. And in addition, also Dutch support personnel settled here, including nurses, administration personnel, and they served at the school as well. Flying in those days came with high risks, and the safety rules were not as strict as today. Unfortunately, 30 Dutch military aviators and air crewmen lost their lives in accidents during their flight training. These men are buried here in Section 41 at Cedar Lawn Cemetery, provided by the city of Jackson to serve as a World War II memorial for the Dutch forces. Now, after completing their training, the majority of Dutch air crews went back to Australia to serve with the Royal Australian Air Force, and they joined the Dutch bomber squadron where they flew against the Japanese in B-25K Mitchell bombers. And soon there were enough air crews available to form even a second Dutch squadron, equipped with B-40 King Hawk fighters. The Dutch pilots and air crew mainly performed ground attack missions and attacks against Japanese ships. A few Dutch pilots also flew transport aircraft for the Royal Australian Air Force. And these were challenging missions. Numerous brave men lost their lives and found their eternal resting place in holy ground and cemeteries around the world. A few select airmen served in the Royal British Air Force, the 322nd Fighter Squadron in Europe, and among them was Captain Pieter Cramerus. After escaping Japanese captivity on Java and surviving 2 plane crashes, Captain Cramerus went to Australia and on to the United States to join the military flying school as an instructor pilot. Later in the war, Captain Cramerus flew numerous dangerous missions in the Battle of Europe, surviving 3 more crashes with his Spitfire fighter. Today, we gather here to honor Captain Pieter Cramerus and the other fallen heroes who gave their lives for our freedom. 30 Dutch pilots and airmen who died during training missions, other former airmen and women who are related to the military flight school are buried here at Cedar Lawn Cemetery. In total, 43 Dutch veterans have found their final resting place in Jackson. And we continue to live in freedom because of the sacrifice that they and so many more young men made. They gave their lives to defend our way of living. And this holds true also for the men and women that are out there today, serving in conflict-ridden areas throughout the world. They too are in our thoughts today. The Netherlands and the United States have military personnel and civilians deployed in many of these conflicts and operations, as do other allies and partners. For the Netherlands, these operations include fighting piracy in the Gulf of Aden, fighting terrorism in the Middle East, and investing in the rule of law in Afghanistan, Iraq, and Mali. I'm proud that Dutch military personnel and civilians have the courage to commit themselves to the cause of international peace and security. And I also praise their loved ones and families who must face the possibility that something bad may happen to their loved one. But I'm also, on this occasion, very thankful that when tragedy strikes, and if the necessity arises, we have friends, such as you all here in Jackson, who ensure that those who have fallen are well taken care of. Albert Einstein once said that as long as there are men, there will be wars, and until now he has been proven right. The fight for freedom and a better world did not end in 1945. But neither did the friendship between the United States and the Netherlands. Our friendship has lasted for more than 400 years. It started in 1609 when the first Dutch people, sailors and settlers set foot in America, on what we know today as Manhattan. And in 1776, the Dutch were actually the first to salute the flag of the young American Republic, and with that the first country to recognize its independence. Today the United States and the Netherlands stand shoulder to shoulder in conflicts around the world in defense of freedom and prosperity. and it's my honor to, on behalf of the Dutch government, the Dutch armed forces and the Dutch people, to thank the city and the people of Jackson for the hospitality and friendship you have shown us over the past 75 years, and that you continue to show us today. We're truly blessed to have had this military flying school here in Jackson. And thank you to those who take such good care of the final resting place of my fellow countrymen. And thank you to everyone who joined us here today. Your presence really means a great deal to us. Thank you.
At this time, I would like to ask the son of Pieter Cramerus to please come up and speak to us a little bit about his father.
Hello, my name is Pieter Franz Willem Cramerus. So, son of Pieter Adriaan Cramerus, who we buried here today. And many of you here probably, I knew him as my father. I knew that he was a warrior. I knew that he was a successful businessman. And also he liked sports, which he had done before. So I probably know less about him as a warrior than I do about these other areas. But nevertheless, he had a tremendous impact on me as his son. And I heard stories of him from my mother, mostly growing up, because he did not like to talk about the war. So I knew that he had been captured by the Japanese and escaped. And I had pictures on the wall at home, one of which is in here, of a plane with a whole lot of holes in it, which didn't look to me like it should be able to fly. And so I grew up, and all he really would tell me as a warrior was he would say that you're from the Cramerus family, and we have a coat of arms, which means, and you now live in the United States. I was born in the Netherlands, but raised, I had dual citizenship when I was 18. But he told me, he said, when your country calls, because you've enjoyed the privileges, then you have to go, you must go. So I grew up knowing this. And I didn't really learn that much about him as a warrior until his 100th birthday. When on his 100th birthday, a big party was arranged in Colorado for 60 people. Unfortunately, his blood pressure spiked that day. We had to take him to the hospital. But the captain of the 322 squadron and a film crew went to see him in the hospital after they had him stabilized. And I learned more about his military career that one day because two fighter pilots got together and started talking. So that's when I found out that he'd been, let's say, crashed 5 different planes, 2 in the Far East, against Japan, and 3 in Germany. I did not know all of this. He used to tell me, well, I'm not really very brave. He said, his partner said, well, they call him Mr. Lucky. If you crash land 5 planes and you're still walking, you're doing very well, I think. So, but I think he was very brave, and he is my hero. And so he also had a great sense of humor. So when it came time to me after I graduated from Rice University, I signed up for Officer Candidate School. There was no problem there. And then I called to tell him that I had volunteered to go to Vietnam, because I was so sure he would be proud of me. So there was silence on the line for 30 seconds. Then I heard, "You dumb son of a..." And I said, "What's this all about?" And then 30 seconds later he said, "Don't you know in the military you never volunteer for anything?" So he would never tell us, "I love you," when we were kids. Myself and my 2 younger sisters, because all the people he loved in the war were his buddies. Most of them died. But then I knew how much he loved me, because it was so obviously contradictory. He raised me all this time to go forth and volunteer, and when I finally did, it was like, no, I can't do this. 4 years, and retired as a lieutenant colonel. And, that would probably not be so if it weren't for my dad. He also came to this country. I was born in the Netherlands. I remember that my mother said when I was born in the middle of a 100-year blizzard, they kept me alive in a shoebox, changed the hot water bottles every 30 minutes. The incubators were all gone and gone to Germany. So we immigrated, brought me to the United States. But there, while we were there, I think my parents got 4 ounces of meat and 1 egg before I was born, and 6 ounces of meat and 2 eggs after I was born. And I weighed 3 pounds 15 ounces in that little shoebox. But obviously I've recovered. In fact, I'm trying to get rid of some of this now. But anyway, so he came with 50 guilders in his pocket. When he ended up, he had a Dutch import-export business. He sold gas-powered air conditioners. Then he worked for a bank for 5 years. Then he bought 4 tractor dealerships and gas stations. And in 1962, he bought 3 hotels in Vail. But it was a parking lot. So he later retired, and he had a recreational ranch of 1,200 acres in Montana. It's very beautiful. And then, of course, finally he lived in Colorado in his last years, and he spent his last 2 months in my house. So I would say he was a good father, he was a great provider, he was a good businessman, and he also had a great sense of humor. I remember getting dressed up to go to this, and someone said, you look nice, and I heard my father's voice. And those of you who are Dutch will probably, I don't know if you remember the saying, he used to say, you know what the Dutch say? He said, you could put a flag on a mud barge, and it's still a mud barge. So we used to tell this when we were dressing up to go to the prom or something like that. So he was my hero, and he was a good father to me. He was very strict. I'm only going to tell you this once. So when I went to basic training, all these people were whining about the discipline. I said, what? It's just like home. I think he gave me the strength to do the things that I did. And I didn't do the kind of brave things he did. I did spend some time in helicopters circling the Berlin Wall, in a small plane circling the what they call a 20 nautical mile radius of Berlin with a camera. And I get seasick in a bathtub, so I learned not to eat before I went up and fly, especially when you're looking through a 1,000mm lens. But I only know from stories the kinds of things that my father did. And he was one of those that volunteered, and I volunteered like my father before me. And I respect him and honor him. And even though he's gone, he's not really gone to me, because as I said, walking down this path here today, I hear his voice. Remember the mud barge. Thank you very much.
At this time, I'd like to ask the family of Pieter Cramerus and our delegate from the 322nd Squadron to please take his urn and place it in his eternal place of rest, please. If everyone would, please stand. All right, please be seated. I'd like to ask at this time Ms. Connie and Ms. Deidre to come up and read two very poignant readings for today.
This is a poem in Dutch by Bart Kroog. He's the poet laureate of the city of Groningen. And for those of you who are a little bit slow in learning Dutch today, I will talk a little bit about the poem. It focuses on the memories of those who are left behind after the last post of tab 2 has been played for the deceased. It reflects on the empty bed, the empty chair, the empty plates that are left behind at home. And contrast that with the graves of the beloved deceased that are left behind far away. Although the bodies of the deceased were lucky to return home, they had stories nobody wanted to hear. But then the poem concludes, when the wind blows, we will always remember the deceased with their laughing faces and their strong bodies who have been taken from us. It is called Na de Last Post bij Bart Kroog. Als de rookflarden van het laatste saluut verwaait en het trompetter verstorven is, wat rest er dan? Het lege bed, de lege stoel, het bord dat leeg bleef. Tientallen jaren lang rustten zij ver van huis en hier. En hun makkers, die mazzel hadden, terugkwamen met verhalen die geen wilden horen. Decennia wind, ruis, bomen, barg, brengt ons de gesneuvelden, een lachende gezichten, een ongeschonden lijven die voortleven zolang wij leven. En herinneren dat eens, dat lege bed, die lege stoel, dat lege bord, tot een mens behoorde die op Mars' order ontnomen is.
Eulogy for a veteran. Do not stand at my grave and weep. I am not there. I do not sleep. I am 1,000 winds that blow. I am the diamond glints on snow. I am the sunlight on ripened grain. I am the gentle autumn rain. When you awaken in the morning's hush, I am the swift uplifting rush of quiet birds in circled flight. I am the soft stars that shine at night. Do not stand at my grave and cry. I am not there. I did not die.
At this time, I would like to ask everyone to please stand and give us a moment of silence as we lay the memorial wreath and also have a presentation of Tapto. I'd like to ask you to please remain standing for our benediction from Chaplain Kuda.
Please join me as we close in prayer. Loving God, as we close this time of commemoration and memorial, I pray that the memories of this occasion may stay with us for the remainder of our lives, reminding us of how great you are, how brief life is, and how noble service is richly rewarded in your kingdom. We give you thanks for the life and service of Pieter Cramerus and his fellow Dutch Fliers. May their lives and service continue to be an inspiration to us and generations to come. In Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Folks, thank you very much for being here today. And if I may take a second, I want you to know that this is not just one day out of the year that we recognize and commemorate those that are buried here. This is something we do every day at the Mississippi Armed Forces Museum. And it's something we'll try to do a better job of getting the word out around the state, as we've discussed a little bit yesterday and last night at dinner. It's something that is very important to us to remember these individuals, so don't think we only set this day aside to do such a thing. Thank you again to the Cramerus family for being here and for allowing us to also honor your father on this day. It is quite our honor and privilege to do so. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our ceremony today. Due to some air traffic issues, there is a slight delay, but we will have a flyover coming over soon of an AT-6 training aircraft that would have been one of the aircraft used by some of our Dutch pilots while training here in Jackson. So feel free to hang around here. You'll see him come over here shortly when he's able to. Thank you again for being here, and God bless you as you go on your way.